Welcome, everyone. I am absolutely thrilled to have all of you junior PR professionals joining me for today's Training Explainer. We are tackling a topic today that is literally fundamental to media relations, yet, strangely enough, it's something most PR teams will never admit to or even talk about publicly. We're going to completely demystify how anonymous sources are actually created and utilized behind the scenes. Okay, let's dive into this because understanding this strategy, it's going to completely change how you pitch, how you control narratives, and how you land that tier 1 coverage your competitors simply cannot. So when you open a news article and you see a line that reads, "According to a source familiar with the matter," what's the very first image that pops into your head? Well, if you're like most people, you immediately picture this dramatic Hollywood scenario, right? You imagine some deeply embedded whistleblower passing a manila folder in a dark, creepy underground parking garage. You picture someone risking it all to leak these tightly guarded secrets. But as public relations professionals, we really need to shatter that Hollywood illusion right away. Because honestly, that is rarely the reality of our day-to-day work.
Let's actually look at the definition we'll be using in this industry. An anonymous source is simply someone who gives information to a journalist without being named publicly. That's really it. It's not inherently scandalous, and it doesn't just mean deep whistleblowers. In reality, it's an incredibly practical tool designed to share information safely and strategically. Once you kind of strip away all that drama and just view anonymity as a standard communicative mechanism, a whole new world of pitching opens up to you.
Here's our agenda for today's masterclass. First up, myth versus reality. Second, the trust bank account. Third, the ethical PR playbook. Fourth, the verification checklist. And finally, the power of anonymity.
Section 1. Myth versus reality. Redefining sourcing in public relations. When you really break it down, there are 3 types of anonymous sources. First, you have genuine insiders. These are the employees, executives, or stakeholders who literally cannot go on the record due to company policy or legal constraints. Second, you have strategic leaks. This is information intentionally shared to shape an emerging narrative, maybe regarding early-stage product insights or internal industry shifts. And third, you have PR-assisted sources. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is this third category, because this is where we as professionals get creative without crossing any ethical boundaries. This is where we step in to shape and position a source for a journalist, effectively creating an anonymous entity out of a real, actual client or partner.
Section 2. The trust bank account. Managing your long-term media strategy. Top PR professionals know for a fact that media relations is a long game, and journalists simply won't publish anonymous info unless they absolutely trust you. Think of your relationship with your favorite tech reporter as a trust bank account. Every single time you provide a track record of accuracy and verifiable value with zero exaggeration, you make a deposit. You're building long-term trust. But every time you ask a journalist to protect a source's identity, well, that's a withdrawal. You are spending some of that relational capital. And if you ever fabricate or invent a fake source, that is straight up bankruptcy. You permanently destroy your credibility. And trust me, if you burn trust once, your career with that outlet is completely done. We really have to draw a hard line in the sand right here. Creating an anonymous source does not mean fabricating a person. Notice the clear distinction here. On side A, we have strategic framing. This is the acceptable, highly ethical practice of protecting real, existing identities. You're taking real clients, real partners, or real analysts, and just shielding their names. On side B, though, we have fabrication. And this is the career-ending mistake of inventing someone who just doesn't exist. There is a massive, fundamental difference between keeping a real person anonymous and making up a fake person entirely. In this industry, we only ever operate on side A.
Section 3. The ethical PR playbook. Step-by-step sourcing.
Let's move to and see how this builds our pitching strategy. Step 1. Identify the story angle first. Look, journalists don't actually care about your client, they care about the story. So you have to ask yourself, what's the narrative that actually deserves anonymity here? If there's no real reason for it, forcing anonymity is just going to backfire. Step 2 is positioning the source, which we are going to detail in just a second. Step 3 is building that trust we just talked about. Absolutely no manipulation, just complete transparency privately with a reporter. And step 4 is offering verifiable value, proving beyond a doubt that your source is legitimate. Let's zoom in on step 2 for a minute, positioning the source. Honestly, this is the trick that separates novice PR staff from true experts. You never ever just email a reporter and say, "Hey, I have an anonymous source." Instead, you strategically shape who that source is in a highly credible way. Just look at these examples. You might describe them as a senior executive at a competing firm, or maybe a source directly involved in the negotiations, or even an industry insider with knowledge of the rollout. See what you're doing there? You aren't revealing their actual identity, but you're actively building their authority. And that authority is exactly what makes the journalist accept the source in the first place.
Section 4. Verification Checklist. Proving authority.
I want you to treat this as a mandatory checklist that you literally must complete before you hit send on any pitch. Even anonymous sources need solid, undeniable proof. You need to provide data points, you need supporting documents. You absolutely must ensure your source's claims align with secondary sources or internal validations that the journalist can actually check. And finally, pattern matching. Does the context actually align with known existing facts? Because if your anonymous source cannot stand up to this level of rigorous scrutiny, it simply won't get published. Bottom line, you have to do the homework for the journalist.
Section 5. The power of anonymity. Why we use this strategy.
Going off the record serves a massive strategic purpose for us. First off, it unlocks sensitive stories. People just speak so much more freely when their identity is protected. Second, it creates intrigue. Think about it. Anonymous insights often feel way more exclusive and inside to the reader. Third, it controls brand risk. It allows brands to influence narratives without direct attribution or, corporate blowback. And fourth, it helps journalists push faster when a story really needs to get out, but naming names would cause major legal or corporate delays. And this brilliantly illustrates how strategic anonymity is really less about hiding from the public and way more about carefully controlling how information is safely revealed to the public. As we wrap up this training module, I want to leave you with this absolute truth. If you're making things up, you are not doing PR. You are creating a liability. So the crucial point is that our entire industry relies on credibility. You can be super creative, you can be incredibly strategic, and you can definitely leverage anonymity to shape incredible stories. But the very moment you compromise your ethical standards, you lose the trust that makes this entire system work. Protect real identities, bring verifiable value, and never, ever manipulate the facts.
Well, now it's your turn. You've got the step-by-step playbook. You know exactly how to position a source, how to build up your trust bank account, and how to verify your data. You're no longer just sitting back and reacting to the news cycle. You now have the ethical tools to actively shape it. So the only question left for you is, how will you shape your first narrative? Thank you all so much for joining this explainer today. Now get out there and start pitching.